Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of OOF to Premium. And in this particular episode, we're going to talk about die roll 6 extra options that you can do, especially the reverse card action. And so, what we want to do is basically on die roll 6, that's the one that you can do chisel and sneak attack actions on your opponents. And you can raid, return, or remove, or you can sneak a peek or trick or treat. And so what we haven't discussed, though, is the possibility of doing a reverse. And so a reverse card, basically, here's the guidelines, here's the stipulations that have to be followed in order for you to achieve a reverse action. The first thing you have to do is you have to have an adversity card. Okay? So once that's in your possession, then you can go from there and you can reverse whatever is written on the card. You can reverse that so that it actually has a beneficial effect rather than a negative one. You know, 99% of the cards, of course, confer some dreadful thing. And what the beauty of the reverse card action is that you can do just the opposite. But here's the freedom, that you have the further freedom of either playing the card on others or playing it on yourself. Whatever outcome achieves the most beneficial, satisfactory outcome for you. So, but we're going to go through the different types of beneficial activities according to the card. The first one we're going to consider is the remove 2 crops from the fields penalty. So if we look at this one, for instance, that's our drought, right? And it says remove 2 crops from the fields. Well, there's 5 cards that have that particular penalty on it. And so if I were to play this as a reverse card, either on myself or on others, it would mean I do the opposite of that. So I would add 2 crops to my fields. And of course, when it comes to these cards, you want to make sure that whatever benefit you're supposed to receive logically makes sense, right? You don't want to benefit yourself into a scenario where you can't truly reap the rewards, okay? So that's something you have to consider with the logic of following this particular reverse action. So anyway, if it's remove 2 crops from the fields, then it's going to be add 2 crops from the fields, okay? And that, of course, is an activity, right? Because it's an activity to play the card on others. If you play it on yourself, that is also a free activity on your turn. But remember, you can only do one of these, right? That's the long-standing rule regarding activities kicking in. Okay, so that takes care of that. The next card we want to look at is this one, fungal infestation. Alright, so this is return 3 crops to uncultivated status. So what's my reverse action of that? It would be to advance 3 crops to cultivated status, right? So what I can't do, though, notice how if I have a scenario like this and I have nothing but cultivated crops, then there's no reason to reverse the card, right? So you got to make sure, once again, that the logic of what you're doing follows through, and that it will actually benefit you, and it won't harm you. Okay, so that's that card. The next one is ambiguous for me. It's a tractor repair. It says no tractor available for 1 round, so if I do the reverse of that, it should be an extra tractor available for 1 round. So basically what it can do for you is it can give you an extra turn on 1 turn. So instead of only having 2 actions, now suddenly you would have 4 actions, so long as they are tractor related. Okay? And so that really adds to your overall productivity on your farm. Very interesting card to have. Notice that you can also give it to someone, and if I were to give the reverse of this to someone, they would actually get 2 extra actions on their turn. So if you really want to help out a neighbor or a friend, one of your growers, co-growers, then this is a nice, interesting card to have. Okay, so moving on, let's go to the next one. This is High Winds. What do we got? Return 2 cover crops to unharrowed status. So that would mean the reverse of that would be advance 2 cover crops to harrowed status. But notice again, let's say I've got something like this, right? All of my fields are turned up, and what am I going to do with a card like this if I reverse it and say, oh, advance it to harrowed status? Well, they're already harrowed. So yet again, we run into that problem. Just make sure you know what the status of your assets are, and then you should do fine. Okay. Next one, here's a cool one. This is the research grant, collect 10 tokens. So if I'm going to collect 10 tokens, the reverse of that would be to subtract 10 tokens. And you might immediately recognize that this is a wonderful card to play on others because you can force them to give up 10 tokens. Notice, however, that the tokens don't go to you. When you remove tokens, that means simply removing it from the game, returning it to the depository, and that's that. Next card, our wonderful friend that most of us are familiar with in the COVID era. Okay, so remove all marker tokens that benefit you. If I were to do the opposite of that, I would provide marker tokens that benefit you. Now this one's really cool because if I'm thinking of this scenario right, you can actually take from the depository what you wish and place marker tokens on your crops. And I would say that could be a maximum of 10 tokens per crop. Yeah. Well, no, since it says remove all marker tokens, it must mean, yeah, you're going to go ahead and add marker tokens. So I think it can be any amount you wish, but it's not going to be, those marker tokens can't be counted as score. All right, they can't be counted as score later. Anyway, I'll have to work out the details on this one. Maybe we'll come back to it. Okay, so here's the next card. Return all crops to wait queue. If I were to do the opposite of that, it would be to take crops from the wait queue and place them on the fields. So in that case, I think it's a tremendous benefit because then you could take all of the crops and plant them into your fields. So you just got to make sure that you can do that your fields are ready for them. And yeah, that should be a tremendous benefit. Oh, and here of course is the Pinnacle Nasty card. Our flood. Yeah, remove all the crops from the fields. So if I were to do the opposite of that, I would say you could plant all crops. Maybe it should be harvest. Yeah, since it's remove all crops, I think the opposite thing would be you can harvest your fields. I'm not sure. But this part of OOFT is not written down anywhere. This is where it's open to interpretation, and you and your friends can come up with whatever you think the best scenarios are. I would say you could flood your fields with crops of your choosing, right? That's the exact opposite of what you would expect from a flood. Okay, and then the last card, This is Toxic Drip. Right. Return 3 crops to unharrowed status. So if I were to do the opposite of that, I would advance 3 crops to harrowed status, or cover crops rather. So that's simple enough. Easy enough to follow. Okay, so virtually every card has a pretty obvious scenario tied to it. And I can leave that open to interpretation and let you, your family and friends decide what's best for that. The plague card remains a question mark. Yeah, I can't think of an opposite for this right now, so maybe that'll be in a future video, who knows. Alright, so that takes care of using the reverse card action on die roll 6. It just adds another layer of intrigue and suspense to the adversity cards, and another layer of decisions that you can make that while you're playing your friends and family will affect what they're doing dramatically, as well as yourself. So I think that's going to do it for now. Hopefully that was clear and easy to follow. If not, you can always rewind. And so until next time, keep on playing Ukta. Bye everybody.